Welcome back to the Metal Gear The Complete Story video series. Last episode, we went over Big Boss's adventures in Metal Gear Solid 3, and how it all worked into the overall Metal Gear plot. For the last video, click this annotation now. As for this video, we're going to be going over the game's Portable Ops and Peace Walker. At the end of the first game, we're going to be going over our recap like usual. So if you really don't want to go watch that first video, don't worry, you won't be too lost. But really, do you want to skip such an incredible video? One last thing before we jump in again, we're going to state this little disclaimer at the beginning of each and every video, so we're going to once again. Now before we go into this and everyone tears into the comments telling us that we didn't cover this bit of the game or we didn't explain the reasoning behind this obscure character's motive, we're going to be focused on the overall story. We plan on giving you enough information so you understand the general motives and the gameplay plots without completely blowing your mind. And trust me, if you watch the first video, you're already lost. So you don't need all that little bit of extra stuff that comes up with each individual game that makes each game shine and stand out apart from the series. So before we waste any more time, let's get back into it. Time to take on Storyteller Voice. In 1966, remember, he used to be Naked Snake, but we'll be referring to him as Big Boss from now on just to keep things flowing without confusing you further. Anyway, in 1966, Big Boss saves Frank Yeager, who was later known as Gray Fox, who was later known as Cyborg Ninja, who was later known as the gunk on the bottom of a Metal Gear's foot. You'll get that joke later. This brings us to 1970, the year that the next game in our series takes place, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. 6 long years after the events that unfolded in Snake Eater, and with half the legacy still missing, we find our hero Big Boss has been captured and is being tortured by the Fox unit. Yes, his old unit from our previous game. Deep in the cells of the Fox base, Big Boss meets Green Beret Roy Campbell, another name you're going to want to remember. For those of you who are keeping track, that would make 4 individuals I've mentioned for you to keep track of: Big Boss, Major Zero, Ocelot, and now Roy Campbell. Once free and in contact with his old friends, Big Boss finds out that he has taken the blame for Fox going rogue. So Big Boss does what anyone being blamed for someone's mistakes would do. He forms Foxhound to hunt and defeat Fox. Because that first unit worked out so well, let's go make a new one. In his new unit is Major Zero, Ocelot, and Frank Yeager. See what I said earlier? 3 of the core people. Plus, we get Paramedic and Ava. As expected, Big Boss wins by defeating Gene. Upon his defeat, Gene realizes that the Big Boss is the true Big Boss, and the only true successor to the boss. He then gives Big Boss all of the Fox's soldiers, money, and the plans to make what he is calling Army's Heaven. Army's Heaven will eventually turn into Big Boss's military-based nation, but that's much further down our timeline. Are you ready for it? This is a Metal Gear game after all. Nothing is wrapped up nicely like that. Alright, here's your plot twist. Behind the scenes, it turns out the entire thing with Fox kidnapping Big Boss, which forced him to build Foxhound, was orchestrated by Ocelot and Major Zero. The goal was to drive the CIA's director out of hiding so that they could grab the entire Philosopher's Legacy, which is that collection of billions of dollars. Tired of the Philosophers always failing, Ocelot makes a power play and kills the head of the CIA. He then takes the legacy and forms his new perfect American Philosophers. The founding of this new group contained Big Boss, Ocelot, and Major Zero. The 3 of them followed their own version of the original bosses, remember the mentor from our first game, dream of a united world using a single military unit and take control of every aspect of the Americans' government. At least, that's what they thought her dream was. We'll get back to that probably at the end of this entire plot. They then make Big Boss the legendary soldier and figurehead of their organization. Their new version of the Philosophers is known as the Patriots. So from this point forward, to help with any confusion, we'll refer to them only as the Patriots. So you're probably a little bit lost already, but we're at the end of Portable Ops, so it's time to give you your fast recap of everything important in the overall story. Alright, in the original game, we had the character Boss trying to find the Philosopher's Legacy, which is a very large sum of money. Big Boss defeated his mentor, the Boss, in the original game, which caused her to go down in history as a traitor. Big Boss secured the legacy for America, but was disheartened and unhappy with how things turned out. We then had Zero and Ocelot orchestrate a rebellion in an attempt to draw out the last of the people who held the legacy. Their rebellion succeeded, and Big Boss defeated the leader of that rebellion, Gene. Big Boss, Major Zero, and Ocelot now have billions of dollars, an army, and the plans and location of where to build their own military-based nation. They have also started their own super shady organization in place of the philosophers known as the Patriots, controlling every aspect of the American government. Alright, so to help you move forward, just make sure you pay attention to those recaps, because the individual plot lines in these games can make things very convoluted when needed. Moving forward in our timeline, we come to 1971. At this time, the unit Foxhound is made into an official US Army unit. In 1972, Big Boss is injured and left in a coma. Worried about the future of his legendary soldier, Major Zero takes Big Boss's DNA and uses their old friend Ava as a surrogate mother. She gives birth to 3 children, Liquid and Solid Snake. Oh my god, yes, he's finally in the story! The 2 imperfect clones of Big Boss, and Solidus, a supposed perfect clone of the Big Boss. Big Boss awakens from his coma and is shocked to learn what Major Zero did to him and the Patriots corrupting the original vision the Boss had. He considers this a massive betrayal and leaves the Patriots and begins to wander the world. And this leads us to 1974 and the game Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Big Boss returns to his original codename Naked Snake during this title, but we'll keep things simple and simply refer to him as Big Boss. There's a lot of snakes who are about to join this story, and we don't need a naked one to throw into that mix. Big Boss and Military Sans Frontiers, yeah, I butchered it. Let's go with the translation. Soldiers Without Borders are enlisted by the Costa Rican agents to help liberate their country from the military presence growing all around. Big Boss takes the job, but as he's building the army, he finds out that they're building yet another Metal Gear. This time it's called Peace Walker, and it's been built as a nuclear deterrent. The concept is, now bear with me, that if the threat that everyone could possibly die exists, no one will launch a nuclear weapon. Using this idea, the Peace Walker has been built with an AI with the psychology of the original Boss, and will fire without a second thought if it picks up that there is a nuclear weapon that has been fired. You remember the Boss, right? Big Boss's mentor that he had to drop in our first game? In case you forgot, the Boss is the original idealistic soldier in this series. It was the US branding her a traitor, even though she was just following orders that sent Big Boss on the path that he is on now. Anyway, a nuclear-armed superweapon who can automatically detect other nuclear weapons and will launch without hesitating. Yeah, this seems like nothing could ever go wrong. Right. Anyway, let's go over how this goes wrong in a hurry and some of the important bits at the end. A CIA agent named Coldman, who was the one who orchestrated the entire situation in Costa Rica, attempts to feed false data to the Peace Walker to force it to fire on the Soldiers Without Borders group that Big Boss is a part of. The KGB kills Coldman before he launches the missiles at Big Boss's group. And in his last dying effort, Coldman instead reprograms our superweapon to fire on Cuba instead and send fake data to NORAD. Big Boss fights one-on-one with the Peace Walker as the US prepares to retaliate to a non-existent Soviet launch. Big Boss at this time decides to take on the title of Big Boss again, so that he can contact the US and use his status as Big Boss, the legendary soldier, to convince them that the entire situation is false. But the US refuses to believe him, and that the Boss, not the Big Boss, but the original Boss's AI sacrifices itself to kill the signal and make the US believe that it was a fake signal. Okay, so that was a lot to take in, but ultimately what happened was Big Boss took on his name again, couldn't find a way to stop the US from launching their weapons, so the boss's AI personality, not the real boss, but the computer version that was inside of the Peace Walker, decided to kill itself off, basically allowing Big Boss to stop the world from going to nuclear war. So in the end, Big Boss is now known as Big Boss again, and he saved the world from going to nuclear war. Yeah, that's the important bits. Now, with the Peace Walker's designers in his army, Big Boss takes his group and they build their own Metal Gear. Because this seems so smart right now, just after you stopped the last Metal Gear. This is immediately stolen by Major Zero's secret agent. You remember Major Zero, right? Part of the Patriots, a replacement for the Philosophers. They steal the Metal Gear that Big Boss built and plan to launch the nuclear weapons at the US and blame Big Boss and his organization. Big Boss does what he does best and defeats the secret agent. He then addresses his followers from the whole exploit and tells them that they are going to make a nation of their own to defend, and their new military-based nation under Big Boss will be called Outer Heaven. Alright, so let's recap all 3 games in our story so far. That would be Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, then Portable Ops, then Peace Walker. I'm going to give you just the important bits as usual to help you with all of your confusion and help you understand the story so that you can get ready for the next video. Back in Snake Eater, we had the boss attempting to secure billions of dollars for the US. Big Boss defeats her, sending her down in history as a traitor to the US. Due to this, Big Boss has secured the legacy for the US, but is furious at them for causing and branding the boss to be a traitor. Zero and Ocelot caused a rebellion to draw out the last of the Philosophers and the last of the legacy. The rebellion succeeded, while Big Boss defeated the leader of that rebellion, Gene. Big Boss, Major Zero, and Ocelot then had billions of dollars, an army, and the plans and location of where to build their own military-based nation. They then created their own super-secret shady organization that is in control of the entire American government, known as the Patriots. Big Boss then fell into a coma, and Major Zero acquired his DNA to create a super soldier clone. Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, and Solidus were all born. Furious that this has happened and the corrupted direction that they are taking the original plan from the boss in, Big Boss left the Patriots and told Major Zero to go to hell. Big Boss then built up his own army and is now building a nation for his people, known as Outer Heaven. And with that, we come to the end of the second part of our Metal Gear: The Complete Story. Next time, we're going to be talking about the actual games Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. So I hope you guys subscribe, and let us know in the comments down below what other series you want to see us cover. The next one that we're working on already is Zelda, but that doesn't mean we're going to end there.